Let's see what kind of joyous fun we can get into with 8 mods and no big city building, just building small towns all over this beautiful map. Let's get started with our very first town today. It was really important to me as I approach each town that I build that I make sure I leave connections and breadcrumbs to other areas that could also become small towns that aren't directly right off the highway, because even though I'm using 81 tiles, there are a lot of DLCs and content creator packs, and I love that you guys voted on this idea to do 1 town per DLC or content creator pack, really highlighting that DLC and paying homage with a whole town that's really just the whole focus is making that DLC or content creator pack the highlight of that town. That being said, the map is only so big, so as I create each town, I also want to be thinking about leaving those roads to go to new places on the map, because I think this will fill up fairly quickly. Today, I'm not focused on any particular DLC or content creator pack. I'm just getting a base town down so we can start getting some income in and just get that starter town in. So this is a great town if you're just looking to start a city and you want to do something a little different. That's not the norm. You'll see there's a couple things I do different here that you wouldn't normally see in a starter town, so we'll talk through all that. But this could be a standalone town, or this could be a great start to a city if you're interested in doing that. All right, now that we have our road network in, I'm going to use these asymmetrical roads, which we have now in the vanilla game, which is so great. I'm putting these here just as when I'm starting a city, I always like to think ahead to solve traffic problems before they start. So I'm putting a yield sign, dedicated turning lanes, using those asymmetric roads. And then coming into the city, I want to use a nice tree-lined street. Now I could leave this all dirt roads and just start the game from there, but I really like to establish my road network ahead of time, especially now that we have so many more road options. So I want to think about where I want the bike lanes, where I want these lovely tree-lined streets for what's going to be our residential area, just really thinking ahead and planning that out ahead of time. Now I want to go through and replace all the trees with the young linden. This is a new town. These would be small trees. Maybe at some point we'll come back and make them more mature trees to show the growth of the town. But for now, we're just going to put these on every row with trees. So I've got these lovely tree-lined streets. That's where our residential area is going to be. I've got some of the trees with bike lanes because I do want to have a few bike paths through the city to help with keeping traffic down. And then I've also put down these industrial roads down here by the waterfront because I want an industrial area waterfront. And this is something a little different. A lot of times you'll see in a starter town the industrial area off to the side of the freeway entrance, which is fine. But I like the idea of an industrial waterfront, and you can kind of tuck away your industry near a waterfront away from the homes, but still make it an important part of the town instead of something that's set aside. Now that we've got the power down, I'm going to grab my water tower and I'm going to put it up on a hill. This is not something I ever used to do, but Jake came into the Cities Skylines community and taught us all about the importance of where we place our water towers. So now I pay attention. Now I'm going to follow the tradition we've all gotten used to and put the pipes underneath the roads where they belong. Because you guys voted to focus on the overall design and aesthetic of these towns versus working our way through milestones, you'll notice I have all the milestones unlocked. We don't have to worry about that. So we've already got our recycling center, which is perfect. That's something I like to use. Now let's get to zoning our residential. Like I said, these are all going to be lovely tree-lined streets for our low density residential. I love the idea of doing that just to kind of give some difference in between where the commercial and the residential will be visually. Now I'm going to paint my area with our district, and you guys gave me so many good name suggestions for our first town, but the one I liked most was Noob Brighton, which I love the take on Noob, and I think we should follow that format moving forward with all these towns, kind of like playing on Noob Towns. I think is such a great idea. And this came from the comic guy. I think I'll have to look it up because I want to name our first resident who moves in. I want to name the house after him. So I'm gonna go look and make sure I have that name correct. The only policy I decided to put on was the encourage biking policy. I know that's kind of out of order and we're doing each town by DLC, but really it's just about honoring that DLC. And I think for me, you guys know the importance of pedestrian friendly cities. Having the bike policy turned on was so important to me. Okay, let's get this going and watch our city grow. Okay, we have our first resident moving in, and it's the comic dude is the one who suggested our name we're using for this first town. So we've got a Brittany Peters coming in. So yes, this is the house. Oh, there's two. Brittany, I can't quite click on that one. Who are you moving in with there, Brittany? Max. Great, we got the Peters. So Max and Brittany Peters will also be known as the comic dude. Yeah, this is fun. So we're going to be starting so many different towns. So I'm going to do this on every single town we start. Whoever comes up with the name, they're going to get the first house name after them, which I think is just fun. So hopefully you guys like that. Okay, let's continue to watch our first town build up. Okay, we're getting a cemetery in, and then I want to think about all of our other services. So fire department, police, medical, our post office, and now we have our little bank we can do too. That's so exciting. I really think having that little small town bank, I know it's just one asset, but little assets like that in the post office, I feel like just brings so much to a town feeling like a complete town. I love that we have that now in the game. And I am bulldozing houses that I don't want. I can be a little particular about that. I'm not going to be too picky with this starter town, but I definitely don't want, in this initial housing area, I don't want anything that looks like a high-rise apartment building. Now here near kind of more of what I would consider the heart of this little town, I do think here on the back of this commercial, we could have a couple of those really cute little brick, small, high density apartment buildings. So I'm gonna do a little path work and pop those in right here. And overall, I'm just being really cautious about where I'm placing zoning, just thinking about kind of in this first town, making more of a separation in between the commercial zones and the residential and the industry. And, you know, this is still a small enough town that, you know, you could still walk to work, walk to the shops. Even if you lived on the back end of town, it would still be a decent very doable walk. So I'm not too concerned with keeping things separate. You know, normally I like to have a nice mixture of, you know, residences and offices and, you know, shops all together within that 15-minute concept I usually do. But with these small towns that we're building, they're going to be small enough that they would be walkable anyway. So I don't have to overthink that part of this. Now, I wanted to fit in the library, the high school, and the elementary school all in this little area. So I kind of had to move things around a little bit, but I really like how it turned out. Again, and I'm just thinking about where it would make sense to place businesses, place homes, a few more high density little apartment buildings, and just being really careful with my zoning, marking things historical so we don't get anything that's too crazy in height as we build out this small town. Now down here, there's this little triangle. I'm not filling all of it out because we will be adding something to help us connect to our next town that we build. I'm sure you can guess what I want to put here on the water. So I'm going to leave a lot of this space open for that specific mode of transit. And I left this square in the middle for a park. I want to have a nice park for this little first town that we're doing. It's going to be really simple and straightforward, nothing fancy, no major landscaping, just really straightforward. And this is a really easy concept you can use if you're kind of lost about what to do with a park and you just want to level up. I'm going to show you some tricks to do that today. And then just a really, really simple park design that will actually encourage a lot of people to walk through your park. Because we're trying to earn money in this early stage of the game, I am in the park should be free camp, but today we're going to allow people to have to pay to use the park and use a little bit of park cheese just to really up our income. So if you've noticed, we have most of the residents on one side of town, and on the other side of this park is where the industrial is, where a lot of the commercial is, and sure, they could walk around, but what you'll find is a lot of people actually end up using the park as a cut through because they see it as a shorter route. So if you strategically place your park in your beginning part of your city when you just get started, it can really help boost your income, and you can make it free later on in the game when money is no longer a concern. A little bit of path work, changing out the trees, and we actually have a really nice space. But we do want to level up the park, so I am going to add restrooms, a cafe, some gazebos, a few things. And then a little later on, I'll show you another really cool trick to get your parks to level up even faster. Okay, time to extend our town because really the size that we have here, I wouldn't call it a town. It's more of a village. So we do need to extend this a little bit. And additionally, on top of everything else, we do need to have some sort of university. I think that would be really important in a town. And not every town has higher education, but this is our first starter town, and we're going to need people to fill those jobs. So I think the sooner we can get that in when we're looking to getting a city really humming, or in this case, our town really humming, it's going to be pretty important. So for the university, I'm just gonna go for the basic one that's in the game. um, not that one, this one right here. And I'm going to place it so this road kind of dead ends, and then our university will live on this side of town. It's nice because we have our industrial, we have commercial, and then we have this large residential area. And on the other side of town, now we have the university. I'm going to add in some more commercial and some offices because that industrial demand is really high. But I don't want to put in more industry than what we already have on the waterfront. So adding in the university allows us to do the offices because then we do have people getting that higher education. This little town is coming right along so nicely. So now what I want to do, I intentionally left this space of land in between the railroad tracks and our road going through the town here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a bike path, a walking path, some fences, some trees, and make this a lovely area so it would be really easy to commute to and from work on your bike, or just to have a place to walk your dog, do some recreational activity. If you have watched my stuff before, you know I always think about recreational activity, outdoor recreational activity, as long as just helping people get from point A to point B on either a bike or walking. So we have our dedicated bike path in place. Now I'm just going to place a nice little dirt road right along the side of the street. It'll essentially end up being like an extended, larger sidewalk, and it'll help separate that pedestrian traffic. I really like to do this in my cities. That way, if you're on a bike and you're just trying to get somewhere, you don't have to worry about on your left and dealing with walking pedestrians. You can just get on your bike and go. And those who are walking can walk the dogs, walk with the kids, and they don't have to worry about that bike traffic. I really like doing this kind of dual side-by-side paths in my city. And yes, I know that there are some dual paths in the workshop, which are great, but I think this is nice to have the pedestrian traffic separated, and it also creates opportunity for even more green space. Now that we have our paths in place and we have a nice little low fence in between our bike path and our walking path, I am using a nice wooden fence here to create a fence along the railroad track, so that way if you're biking, maybe you don't feel like you're exactly right next to the railroad, and it will help block some of the sound as well. Now I'm going to get down in this view and really see what kind of landscaping I want to put in this area. I want to make sure I'm not putting a tree that's going to hang over onto the railroad track. So I think this is going to be great for blocking the sound, but also it's not going to be in the way of the train or the bikers. I definitely want a low bush towards the street. And then there are so many cool trees with this map too, which I'm really excited to use. I just don't know if any of them, that's too big, are going to be the right size. Too big. This is something that's good to do too, is just play around with different trees and figure out what you want to use for your pattern. I think we're going to go with the young linden. This makes so much sense to me, and I like this little pattern. So let's get this all put in, and then we'll take a little bike ride. I really love how this turned out. I think we just need a large tree or two at the end, and I think this is gonna be good. And then we'll hop on a bike and check it out from that first person view. Okay, we are looking pretty good. We're not quite complete yet. So let's take a look and see where our park space is at. So you can see there's a section of the town that's really well covered, and then this other end is not. I think a dog park at the end of our nice little walking and bike path is going to be perfect, because then you can get to it pretty easily no matter where you live. It's an easy walk. And we'll put in a big park over here as well. That's really going to help. But I don't think that's going to be enough. I almost think we need to put something kind of in the middle, which means we're going to need to do a little bit of redevelopment and maybe add in, I do like these little playgrounds. So let's make a little space here and just make a little miniature park right here in the middle of our residential area. I think that's perfect. Oh, that's really helped. So over here in this corner, we still got some red. Park space is so important to me, so that's something I always want to make sure we're covering. This little area here would be perfect for more of a nature type recreational walking path, and then we can put a little viewing deck right over the water, and then maybe this would be a good place to put the rock climbing asset as well, just as a more form of recreation. So here's your cheat on how to get your little tiny park to level up. Pull over that park area to another area in your starter town or the beginnings of your city, and that way you're not trying to cram every single park thing into one little tiny city park. You can pull things from, like I'm pulling from the nature reserve here with the viewing deck and the rock climbing, and now we've helped our park level up, but we're not cramming everything into that little park, which wouldn't be very aesthetically pleasing. Now over on this side, I really want to tie in this park and this dog park, and this would also be a great place to add in some high density apartments. This would be a very desirable place to live in our little town. Now, I think because the railroad track is right here, we can't ignore it. And I think this is the perfect place to bring in just a plain little vanilla train station and just have this be a place where we can then connect to regional transit, because that's really important. Even with a small town, you want to be able to have a mode of transportation you can hop on to get to other areas. And I think trains are going to be heavily utilized in this map as we look to kind of connect all these little towns together. And it can be tricky to place your train station just right, so you can do what I just did here. I just draw a road, plop down the train station, and kind of use Move It to kind of maneuver it around to like get it where I want. This is kind of on an odd curve, so I did have to do a little finagling, and it's not perfect, but it works. Now we're going to pull a little path right from the train station and hook up into our existing path, and then we are going to do the same trick. We are going to pull from our main park space all the way down so we can put some park assets back here, and again, that's just going to help our park areas level all the way up really quickly. I think that ended up being such a lovely continuation of the park space in this town. Now I'm just going to use some of the really basic vanilla park assets across from the train station. we're going to have a lot of different towns with a lot of different transit, and there's going to be opportunities to do some really cool things. But for this starter town, I'm just sticking with basic. We're just pulling in all these basic park assets. Again, we're just helping our park to level up. And again, all of these look pretty nice outside of the little train station anyway, so I do think it helps pull it all together. Now on this side of town, I do think it needs to feel complete. I love the feeling of completion, so I think by bringing in some little high density on this outer part of our town, bring a little path behind it, it'll kind of just make this town feel complete. And I felt like if I just left it with nothing on the other side of the road, that would feel strange. I think it's a good indication that we're kind of already low on water and sewer, to the fact that I think we've gotten to a good town size. We're definitely not a village. So I think that is a nice indicator for me, honestly. So we're just changing out that water tower. And then I found a little space here. We're just going to take out these buildings and put in another sewage treatment plant down here. I think we are coming really close to completion of this town. Okay, we definitely need at least one simple bus route that goes through the town. I think that would be really important. Although the town is small enough and we've got biking opportunities and walking opportunities, not everyone in the town is going to be able-bodied, and sometimes you just want to get somewhere faster and not have to walk. Maybe there's bad weather. So I do think even though our towns will be small, really providing good public transportation is going to be really important. So I'm just going to run a simple line around the town, just a circular, and we will call that good. Okay, the asset I did grab from the workshop for this first town, and with assets, I'll be adding them per your suggestions, and then ones that I really like as they kind of make sense and pertain to the town that we're building. I don't want to do, I'm only using 8 mods. I don't think that's going to change unless there's one that you guys are like, no, this is another like essential mod you must use. But so far as assets, I don't want to add a ton, but I do think churches is something that is missing in the game. And so there are a lot of churches on the workshop I like. Myself, I'm not religious. I'm more of a spiritual person, but I understand the importance of having a place for community and worship. And so I think as we move forward, maybe it'll be fun to pick a different church for a different type of religion for each town that we build. So I think that could be really fun. So let me know what churches on the workshop you really like, and we can pull some through, along with like if there's community centers or town halls or things like that on the workshop that could be really fun to add into these smaller town type builds to really give each of these towns their own unique character. Another fun tip is when you're looking to start a city, if you're not good at doing highway exits and interchanges, just grab a good map. There's so many on the workshop, but that's why I love a good Eggsy and Karina map, because I know it's going to be beautifully detailed, and I know there's going to be lots of opportunities to build right off of the highway. And so I'm just obsessed with this map. Now, also in the sense of completion, you know, it's good to leave open spaces, but here I think in between the town and the freeway, I think we could have just some nature, a lot of rocks and trees. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that in. The other thing I noticed from a functional standpoint, where our recycling is, it's all the way at the other end of the town. And I noticed I was getting quite a few icons for garbage on this side of town, and I was following the trucks and it was just taking too long to get the garbage. So I'm gonna put a second recycle center on this side of town, and then it'll just be nice because then the trucks don't have to go all the way to the one side of the town, and hopefully garbage will get picked up faster, which will make our citizens much more happy. I don't know about you guys, but I love watching either people walk around, people ride bikes, or traffic. And again, I just want to highlight how beautiful this map is. Look at the mountains, the way the water looks, the color of the water, the trees they selected for this map, the detailing around the interchanges. It is just beautiful. It is linked in the description below. I think it is going to be such a fun map to play on. I'm so excited, and I'm so happy for all of you who voted in all of my polls on my channel in November of December of last year to really decide what this series was going to be. And I am so excited to continue and just build out these little towns. Now, some of the towns might take a few episodes because we're going to be tackling some pretty big DLCs, but today we kept it simple. I really love how our first town has come together. It's an odd shape. We've got some unique road networks, and we've got all the bases covered. I feel like this is a solid town, and I love the layers in height that we're kind of building up to as you approach the freeway, and then we kind of disappear into some kind of nature with the train. I really like it. It has a good feel to it. I hope you all have a joyful day, and I'll catch you next time.